Okay, we are now live.
Perfect. Thank you, Carolyn. It is now, let's see, 1:01. I'm calling the May 5th, 2025 meeting of the Albemarle County Architectural Review Board to order. Carolyn, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Vanderwerf,
Here.
Mr. Stoner,
Here.
Mr. Hancock,
Here.
and Mr. Matsuno is walking in the door.
That counts. Today's meeting is a hybrid meeting. The public may access and participate in the meeting electronically. Instructions for doing so are posted on the Albemarle County website at the Albemarle County calendar. The public has real-time audio-visual access to this meeting over Zoom and real-time audio access over the telephone, both provided in the lawfully posted meeting notice. This meeting is being recorded and will be made available on the county's website. This meeting is a public record and subject to disclosure under the Freedom of Information Act. All speakers, when it's your turn to speak, please first state your name for the record. Applicants who are making presentations, note that your presentation is limited to a total of 15 minutes, which you can divide among your team members. Staff will let us know when the 15 minutes are up. If applicants in the meeting room have team members attending virtually who will need to present, please make that known when you come to the podium. Everyone who is participating virtually, please mute your microphone until it is your turn to speak. Do any ARB members have anything to disclose?
No. No. No.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public that want to make a comment about a project that is not on the agenda for review?
I heard nobody online.
No, thank you. Let's see, there are no consent agenda items today. We'll move on to the regular review items. There's one regular review item. It is ARB 2025-05 Northside Drive Initial Site Plan. Chris, we're ready when you are.
Good afternoon, everybody. The plan you're viewing today is the initial site plan and a second review of the architecture to construct a 72,000 square foot warehouse with associated site improvements. Site is located on the west side of Route 29 at the intersection with Northside Drive. In December of last year, ARB provided comments on the architecture and site grading and landscaping. The proposed warehouse remains constructed with tilt-up concrete panels. The overall design maintains a dark base and uses taller vertical panels rhythmically spaced along the facade. However, is shifted away from using forms and detailings to variations in paint color and additional scoring to attempt to relieve the building's mass and blankness. The shift is expected to create long, uninterrupted walls as viewed from the entrance quarter. Revising the building design to use earth tone paint colors, providing detailing along the upper walls, increasing the height of the parapets, and treating the northeast and southeast corners could help reduce the building's scale and massing. The proposed grading along the frontage now features rounded contours for more natural berm appearance from the entrance quarter. The landscaping has been revised for better coordination with the berm and a more irregular planting layout. However, the tree species along the parking row between the building and the entrance quarter are too close to the existing overhead lines, and the landscaping north and south of this row would benefit from a more irregular planting pattern. Along the northern and southern perimeter of the site, there are gaps in landscaping that help filter the visibility of the blank upper walls from the entrance quarter. Revising the site plan to provide trees in these areas would be appropriate. Staff recommends approval of the initial site plan without conditions and recommends the changes listed in the staff report be addressed with the final site plan submittal. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. We'll now go to questions from for staff. Dade, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Chris. No questions.
Tara
No, I don't have any questions. Thanks for the presentation.
and Frank?
No, nor do I. Thanks.
I don't have any questions either. Thank you, Chris. Now, do we have someone from the applicant for a presentation?
Good afternoon. My name is Keith Lancaster. With me is Charlie Armstrong. We represent Northside Industrial. Appreciate your time. Since our last meeting, when we were before you in December, we took your feedback and staff's feedback as well. Again, this is a heavy industrial site, which is kind of a unique zoning that is challenged with the guidelines you all are reviewing under. So our focus was site design and landscaping to shield from the corridor. We have our group from Timmins here, engineer and landscape folks, and I think we might have one online as well if there's questions regarding species and types of landscaping. Going into two quick areas that I think that Chris had identified, the north side drive portion of the site, the north view of the building. There is some challenges regarding gas line, stormwater, storms, sewer, and I believe there's a sewer as well. So there's some utilities that are conflicting with some landscaping. Talking with our team, we think we have the ability to do some additional landscaping along the building that we currently show is some spaced out trees along that area, but adjacent to the road itself, Northside Drive, is a challenge due to utility conflicts. With this design, we did reduce the overall length of the building. We had a conflict with a setback to the south side of the building with the adjacent residential. So the building shrunk by 50 feet and we expanded the depth by 20 to help minimize that wall face to the corridor. And we took the previous plan, we had at-grade loading spaces in the front, as Chris is showing with that cursor right there, and we swung that around to the side. So we don't believe that will be visible from the corridor. Chris, would you mind just showing the site views that came along with it so everybody can see what we proposed here? We think with the enhancement of that berm along the frontage and with the additional landscaping, we feel like this is the way that we could get our biggest bang for our buck to help minimize the impact of the corridor.
Yeah, thanks, Keith. There's a lot of architectural comments in the staff report about locations of HVAC and things like that. The goal here really was, since this is a heavy industrial use, to instead focus on making it much less visible from the corridor so that the locations of those things almost didn't matter. However, like a condition that HVAC and stuff would be on a portion of the roof that's not visible from the corridor, if that were a condition that the ARB wanted, no problem. We just haven't located those things, but we know they will be invisible. So this view is a real good one that is looking from the south coming up. You just can't see the building. That was our goal here. The other view coming from the north looking south is this is the most prominent view of the entire proposed building. If you were to go further north up 29, there's a berm on the northwest corner of Northside Drive and 29 that is existing now. It's solid rock, I happen to know, that precludes any view of the building from further north on 29. So this is really the view we need to decide if this is okay or not. Obviously, what we're showing here is just the mass, not the actual detailing the building does have. But our goal was to spend all of our effort and money, frankly, on the landscape, the berm, to mitigate the view at all. If we can add some trees or things along the side of the stormwater pond. In this view, that would be furthest to the right. It wouldn't benefit this view very much, but we're not opposed to that. If your desire is to have a little bit more screening at this corner, so it truly does become invisible, we can figure that out too. It's gonna be much harder to change architecture of a heavy industrial site than it will be to screen it. If you have other questions for landscape architects or engineers, they're here. And other than that, I guess Keith has one more thing. but
I have
take
one more thing that, I think it's important to note that the speed limit through here is 55 miles per hour as well. I think that is a big play here. We're all looking at this thing as if we're standing in the middle of 29. But in reality, you're going by at 55 miles an hour or 60 and trying to look to see what that was. And I think the comment regarding earth tone colors is valid and would be something we focus on as well for the building itself.
Thank you. Let's go now to questions from ARB members. Frank, any questions for the applicant?
What do you guys plan to do about signage? I realize that's probably a separate application, but.
Yeah, I think that is, and it will be user driven. Right now, the building is speculative. So we'll be back to you with that. Maybe we'll put a big sign right there so it blocks that corner of the building.
So there may be a monument sign out.
It's
At the corner?
possible, but we haven't gotten to that point. So we'll be
Gotcha.
back here to discuss it with you.
Okay, I don't have any other questions.
Thanks. Dade?
Sure, yeah, thank you for highlighting the landscape challenges around the easements at the north side. If trees aren't feasible, are there options to plant shrubs or smaller ornamental trees at that location? Near the sewer line and gas line?
Yeah, I think it'd be enough.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
That'd be a fine condition.
Tara?
Could you just talk through how you arrived to the elevations that are appearing in the application?
Sure. We wanted to do a higher quality building than like a Butler or steel building. We knew that you all would probably struggle with that. And we also are looking for a higher class type of space here. So the tilt up concrete is that solution, we think. And do you want more specifics about?
Well, because the rendering is different than the elevation. That's just what transpired. How'd you work through the?
Yeah, I'm not sure I have the full answer to that, but it's an iterative process, and maybe the rendering is what we're looking at, the elevation. What are the differences you're looking at here?
The field one is
Go back to
blue,
it.
this one is blue.
This one, I think.
Yeah, you're talking about colors specifically.
Yeah, like it's just what are your thinking?
We can do a lot of things with colors. We could certainly do earth tones here. That there's no magic to that for us. If that's a preference, we're happy to do that.
This is the accurate elevation though? Or-
This
This
is
was previous.
the elevation from December of last year. And I think
Yeah.
the point Tara is getting at is the I guess the pullback from the forms and the detailing that were present in this elevation versus this elevation. It was the kind of the lot more.
I got you. Sorry, I wasn't understanding your question. Yeah, the rendering, and maybe this is a good one to get Cheval, see on the. See, might be able to help with some of this, but the December version was a similar building. It's not the building. This is the proposed elevation of the building.
Right, and I think previously we had comments about that previous design. So how did you address them in this one?
The building itself.
Yes.
Yeah, the building itself, we were trying to break it up and we're adding other elements of color. Earth tone is obviously the preference. And then stepping back from what we were trying to the ultimate goal for us was the challenge of how do we shield the now 400-foot linear feet instead of 450-foot linear foot buildings. So we shrunk it down. And we, as Charlie said, we focused more on the site design and the landscaping than trying to change a heavy industrial building into something different. It's very challenging.
Yeah, there is a little bit more scoring in this, and but lap panels are specified now, I believe, but adding more detail than that, we felt like it would be better spent effort on the screening itself. Trying to dress up this type of building is very difficult, we think, to get it to something that would ever strictly meet the guidelines that you all are looking at. It's not a form that fits in a lot of applications, so making it invisible was the goal rather than focusing on that.
Yes, Dave
Oh, sure,
has
yeah.
another question.
Well, thank you. I guess returning to the elevations, so is the intent that this precast would all be in the same plane when tilted up? Is there any relief between panels or any?
No, I don't think that's the plan.
Okay.
The parapets, could be the different heights there, that could be adjusted if different planes were important to you all, we could look at that. I just don't know how much of that you would actually see from the corridor.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful to know. That's a consideration, because I think looking at the elevation, just because of the coloration, it seems like the verticals maybe are more prominent. The white areas are a little more recessive. And so I think some development of the facade that articulated some depth in plane and created some shadow that was deeper would be helpful. Just, I know that's not for the site review that we're doing now, but wanted to offer it for consideration for the future. I think also in these precast panels, it sounds like you're thinking about texture already. And I think we'll be interested to see what development of texture to create some variety in the wall you may propose.
Thank you. Tara, do you have any other questions? Just a couple questions, and thinking about the building. Is this envisioned to be a multi-tenant building? I heard you say it's speculative. Maybe you don't know at this time, but is the idea that it's multi-tenant?
Yes,
Okay, so there's not a front door per se. There's multiple,
no, right.
okay, or main
Um,
entrance.
The economic goals were to be able to serve as many different possible tenants as possible. If somebody came in and wanted the entire building, that's possible, but it's more likely. And really the need here is for smaller scale industrial space in Albemarle. We just don't have enough.
And then looking at the plantings along the frontage, I noticed the overhead power. Are they located far enough outside where they'll be able to grow to maturity? Plus or minus?
Yeah, I can speak to that. Clint Shivlet with Timmons Group, helping the applicant on the site plan.
State your name.
Clint Shivlet with Timmons Group. Yeah, we've evaluated that, what we're seeing on working other projects, along the 29 corridor. Like Arbors at Green, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that project, it's in Greene County. We were working along the same corridor with the same overhead power, infrastructure. I believe what we're showing now is 20 feet, or 15 feet perhaps, but it's consistent with the tree type and spacing that we've used on other projects and worked with Dominion on. So we feel comfortable that we're providing adequate spacing there.
I think the issue I pointed out in staff report goes down to 12 feet north near the southern portion of the site.
Yes, that's accurate.
Okay.
Thank you. And then just quickly, the distance between the face of the building and the edge of the road approximately. It's
I don't know that off the top of my head. I can.
but it's got the whole parking lot in front of it, so it's pretty far back,
Chris, I'm not sure if you could pull a dimension. Yeah.
100 feet. $120 feet. Okay. Thank you. I don't have any more questions. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment? Nobody online? Nobody in the audience? Okay, the ARB will now go into discussion.
Before you do, I just realized I have material samples that if you wanted to look at, I forgot to put them out for the architecture that I can bring over to you.
Okay, thank you. We can view those while we comment or while we discuss. We'll start with you, Tara.
Yeah, I appreciate the applicant coming forth. I think that I think the approach to using a landscape to provide the majority of screening and address visibility from the corridor is makes all the sense in the world. I think the only thing I'm struggling with is just not being able to see the proposal that's currently being contemplated in the site. I guess I just want to know more certainly what we're committing to, because I do think that it's really sensible to use the landscape for the primarily form of screening, but I don't think it's quite accurate to say that it's invisible. So I think it does have to be documented in a way that we can review it. Whether it's updating the rendering to show the design that you intend to actually build or something like that, that would help me sort of feel more comfortable with it. Because I'm not opposed to the concept. I'm not opposed to the approach that the applicant has taken, but there is a rendering of a pretty significant massing with mostly deciduous trees that are going to have the leaves down at some point. And so I think it would be better to kind of be able to see the project as it's envisioned on the site.
Thanks, Tara. Where were we? Dave?
Sure. Well, like Taro, I'm eager to see more detail of the building proposal and to see it in the site context. I think in terms of the site plan considerations before us today, I appreciate the applicant's attention to providing really robust screening and landscape. I agree with Taro that we won't completely conceal the building, but I think it's a great contribution. And I appreciate what I think I heard in terms of a willingness to consider adding shrubs and ornamentals and some additional trees at the north side to further enhance the landscape there.
Thanks, Dave. Frank?
Yeah, I agree with Taro's assessment that it'd be nice to see it in its finished form, essentially a rendered form. I think inherently there's just a conflict between the zoning here and the architectural code. And so I think the approach they've taken is the appropriate one. It's an industrial site. It's going to be an industrial building. Let's do what we can to hide it. And I'm not going to get too stressed about the architecture because, again, it's industrial. That said, it would be nice to see the sort of final rendered version. I think the more evergreens we can get up front, the better. Just so we're not looking at it in the winter and otherwise, I think it looks good.
Thank you. I agree with my colleagues. I don't really have much to add. I do think exploring a warm color palette, I think that would lessen the impact. I think just the cool grays and kind of the almost white, given the expanse of this building, I think it will stand out more. And as you've described, the goal is to hide the building. So I do think that's a pretty easy intervention, is just to study that color palette. So it blends in slightly better, I guess, than it would in the cooler family of colors. But yeah, think hard about the tree species. I agree with Frank's comment about the evergreen trees. You know, think what will actually do the work of screening the building. But yeah, it is nice. I know the county does need industrial space, so I think on that end, it's a positive. Does anybody have any other comments before we review the motion?
Yeah, I guess I would just add, I agree with my colleagues that, you know, I think as an industrial building for an industrial use, some leeway is reasonable. I think, I do think that there is a wide range of possibility within precast panels to still develop a building that has some relief, some character, some texture, some modulation. I think that the color, and scoring that's indicated in the elevation, such as they are, is a start to that. But even, at least personally, even with the landscape mitigation, I would look for and expect some development of the building in plane and texture to, even at 55 miles an hour, provide a little more character.
Thank you. Can we review the recommended motion?
This color would be nice. I will say with regard to the color, I think the risk of going to warmer colors is that the building starts to look dated. I think this is a pretty clean, crisp, contemporary color palette, especially with the wood.
Yeah,
I
it's
guess
a little-
around the entrance.
It's a little warmer than
Yeah, it is.
cool,
It's got a little warm.
the grays.
I think it's,
Well, and it may be a matter too of, you know, to the extent it's darker, it's perhaps a little more recessive.
So this is an initial site plan. The recommendation is for approval of the initial site plan. And there are a number of conditions to be addressed with the final submittal. I've made a few notes here in red text to pick up on some of your conversation. I did add the word warmer to number 2 regarding the building colors. And number 14 added the reference to potentially small trees or shrubs if the large trees can't be used along Northside Drive. And then added number 17, update the rendering with the revised architectural design for ARB review. And number 18, incorporate evergreen trees into the landscape plan for better screening of the building.
I think given Frank's comment, it might make sense to revise item 2 to say warmer, but not necessarily earth tone. Is that?
right. I almost feel
Specify
like-
Frank Stoner for the record.
Or I'm fine with it being, I think if it's, I don't know, maybe there's a debate about grays. I don't have an issue with gray, but I think the warmer tones are better. But I don't want to necessarily say they have to use like a earth, I don't know.
We could
I guess
consider.
it's
Why
in
don't we
the-
use consider? instead of-
Consider.
consider.
I feel like items 1 through 4, quite honestly, could be eliminated. You could throw 5 in there too. I mean, I feel like if the primary objective is to screen the building, let's scrutinize that. I think it's an industrial building. It's zoned industrial, like. I'm not sure it's fair for us to expect.
Oh, but it's also in the entrance corridor in that overlay.
It is, yeah. I
So,
mean,
It's possible to have,
probably shouldn't be on the entrance corridor, but.
yeah, but it's possible to have very beautiful architecturally developed industrial buildings. And precast can certainly be developed in remarkable ways. So it doesn't need to be a single plane or a single texture. And I think there's indication already in the elevation. So I think I would be supportive of removing possibly 3, 4, and 5, but I would suggest that 1 remain and that we include, perhaps language like consider variations in the plane of precast and the textural character of the panels. And again, this is really for the entrance corridor facing facades. There's a lot of the building that at the west side, and otherwise it could really is not really visible from the corridor. But so I support it. It's an industrially zoned building. It's an industrial building type, but I think there's room for development between just a standard single plane precast box and something with a bit more texture and scale, which I think is already being suggested in what we can see of the proposal thus far. I'm just suggesting maybe I'd like to see that developed and expressed further.
Yeah, I agree with Dade. I don't think it's new materials. I don't think it's new elements. I think it's working with the scoring, working with how you break down the mass using the panels. If there's some ability to, break that plane, those would be things I think we're looking for. I don't think in this case, it's overly burdensome. That's my take on it. It's kind of moves they're already making. And maybe it's we're gonna ask to see this again anyway in some form, so
I think that
consider the
That's-
composition and given our comments.
I think the composition and the modulation now as it is reasonable if it were accompanied by some appreciable separation and depth of plane that created shadows and some separation in those visually.
Is there agreement that 3, 4, and 5 should be deleted?
Works for me.
Yes.
Yep.
Let's see, are there any other edits?
I think we need to work on the wording of number 1. I'm not sure I got exactly everything that was being said.
Precast, is it texture that?
Texture, I guess. Yeah.
With 1, do we need 6?
No, I think we can strike that.
Yeah, I agree.
Is number 2 meant to be consider or revise?
I think consider. I mean.
Yeah.
There's consensus on the board about.
It's okay by me.
Yes. Any other edits?
No, I mean, I think if we just saw a revised version with some sort of explanation as to the design process, that would, I think I could be personally comfortable with a lot of different options. It's just, what's the one we picked? Why did we pick it? And what does it look like on the site? I think that's what would kind of make me comfortable moving forward with something like that.
Would anybody like to make a motion? Right, there we go. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to forward the recommendations outlined in the staff report for the initial site plan to the agent for the site review committee as follows. Regarding the final site plan submittal to address the items 1, amended to add consider any variations in the wall plane and precast texture, explain the design process. Item 2, which is revised to read, consider revising the building design to use warmer paint colors. Strike item 3, item 4, item 5, and item 6. Revise item 14 to read, revise the landscape plan to show large shade trees or small trees and shrubs in the planting area between Northside Drive and the stormwater facility. And then to add item 17 to update the rendering with the revised architectural design for ARB review, and 18 to incorporate evergreen trees in the landscape plan for better screening of the building.
Is there a second?
I'm sorry, could I just clarify, for number 17, updating the rendering, we would typically ask for the rendering with the landscaping and without.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Could we call the vote?
Mr. Hancock,
Aye.
Mr. Stoner,
Aye.
Mr. Mitsuno,
Aye.
Mr. Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Didn't state earlier, Mr. Henningson's on vacation, or not today. I'll do it.
Thank you.
Thank you. If I could take a second of your time just to ask a follow-up question. It makes a little more sense, some of the conversation earlier, because since you didn't yet have the material and color samples that were passed around, but were you all generally okay with those materials and colors trending toward the warmer, or did that have any impact on the motion?
We may not all agree on this. I would say I
At
was.
least
in
2
favor.
out of 4 agree, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, so,
With warmer than that.
yeah, I think we're split. Like,
Okay, so two out of 4 are,
Yeah.
that's fine. 2 out of 4 want warmer.
Okay, so those are great. We'll just make them warmer and cooler.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, not cool, just half warm.
I think only warmer or the same. It's
All
kind
right,
of where we're at.
that's sufficient. I got it. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
thanks.
Darker didn't make it in.
We need a 5th member.
How many bays were there? I think there were 5 bays there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we'll get back.
Everybody could have their own bay.
Here you go. You asked for it. Thanks. Okay, there is one work session item today. It is, are we ready? ARB 2024-29 999 Rio. Hello,
Yes, hello.
Mariah.
It's been a minute.
Yes.
So for context, this site is located at 999 Rio Road East at the intersection of Belvedere Boulevard. Surrounding the site are K-Tech and City Church to the south, Harvest Church of God to the west, and the Belvedere neighborhood to the north, and the Dunlora neighborhoods to the east. The final site plan was reviewed and approved by the ARB in April 2024 with recommendations and requirements. The action letter noted 3 conditions requiring approval by the ARB. Those are conditions 3, provide perspective showing the development from various vantage points on the entrance corridor, show how the proposed landscaping will mitigate blank walls and how it will be used to integrate the overall development. Condition 11, coordinate with RWSA to add landscaping at the stormwater management facility if possible, and to integrate the facility into the finished site and promote a coordinated non-engineered appearance along the entrance corridor. Coordinate with county engineer regarding trees in the facility. And condition 14, which is revise the landscaping plan to show shrubs along the east elevations of lots 1 through 14. Proposed landscaping should have a coordinated appearance that is integrated into the overall development. The applicant submitted revised materials to address these comments and conditions, not comments, conditions. To address condition 3, the applicant provided cross-sections from different vantage points along the entrance corridor instead of perspectives. The intent of this condition was to demonstrate how proposed architecture and landscaping would generally result in a coordinated, orderly, attractive appearance from the entrance corridor, and specifically address the appearance of blankness on the southern elevation of the unit on lot 15, which had few windows and minimal architectural detailing. The cross-sections and landscaping plan demonstrate that dense clusters of small and large deciduous trees as well as evergreen trees and shrubs will be provided in areas outside of easements. The quantity of trees, layering of landscaping, and variety of species are expected to limit views to buildings and sufficiently mitigate the appearance of blankness on the southern elevation of the building on lot 15. For condition 11, the applicant has successfully coordinated with RWSA and county engineering on a revised landscape plan. Updates to the plan include regrouping the 3 river birch highlighted in yellow in the northeastern corner of the stormwater management facility and adding a row of 17 arrowwood viburnum along the entrance corridor frontage in front of the stormwater management facility. And those are highlighted in green. The arrowwood viburnum is proposed to be planted at a height of 1 foot and is expected to grow to a height of 7 feet in 10 years. This planting height means that the grass-covered berm located in front of the detention pond would be visible until the arrowwood viburnum reaches maturity. A taller height at planting would help mitigate short-term views of the stormwater management facility and would be more consistent with the entrance corridor guidelines. Lastly, condition 14. The intent of condition 14 was to address the entrance corridor guideline requiring plantings along the fronts of buildings to soften the appearance of exterior walls. The revised landscaping plan doesn't include recommended landscaping. However, the grading and landscaping between the lots and Rio Road are expected to sufficiently limit the views to the bases of these buildings. Staff found the proposed Conoy viburnum at the line, the edge of the parking particularly helpful in addressing this comment. And those are highlighted in purple. Staff recommends approval of the revisions addressing conditions 3, 11, and 14 with the following condition. Revise the landscape plan to show that the arrowwood viburnum located along the entrance corridor frontage will be planted at a height of 3 feet at planting. And so that's the end of staff's presentation, and I have motions, should you care to use them.
Thanks, Mariah. The ARB will now go into discussion. Dade, do you have any comments or questions?
No, I appreciate the thorough explanation, and I think that the landscape revisions seem satisfactory to me.
Thanks. Frank,
I would agree.
Tara?
Yes, thank you.
I agree. And your presentation was very thoughtfully done and easy to understand, so thank you. I don't have any questions or comments. Is there an applicant's presentation? No. Let's see, no questions for the applicant.
I have one question about that species of viburnum and how wide it is at full size. You said 7 feet, 6 feet tall, 7 feet tall?
I said 7 feet tall, but I don't recall how wide its growth pattern is. I can look it up.
Okay,
Give me a minute.
they're planted right on the pedestrian bike path.
Yeah,
I wondered if they might want to be back a little bit.
looked like there was room to pull them into the site a little bit.
I think there's an easement right on the back side of that row of planting, but Justin, I'll pass it to you.
Yes, Justin Schimpf, the engineer. Basically, there's an RWSA easement that extends up, actually, I think to the property line. And then we're allowed to plant certain species of which this arrowwood viburnum is within that zone, but 10 feet off the pipe. So I think they're right at the 10-foot line. So there may be, certainly when we plant them, we'll, get them right on the edge of that line, but there may have to be some maintenance of those over time. 'Cause you're right, they may encroach the path slightly, but we have about a 2.5 or 3 foot strip to work in, basically, is the only place the planting is permitted in that zone.
I'm not presenting, I'm sorry. I was highlighting on my own screen, but not for anybody else, apparently. So this is on the,
okay.
I do. I'm so sorry. So this is that easement in relation to the arrowwood viburnum.
Right, the easement goes to an old right-of-way line, so actually the shrubs are within the easement zone. And you'll see the water line is that W text running up and down the page, basically. So there's a setback we can be from that line. I think it was 10 feet. So basically the trees are right off that edge.
Shrubs.
The shrubs, excuse me, yes. But they appear to be, those probably are 3 feet or so off the edge of the path. My memory is something like it was a 13-foot gap we had to work in. We put them right on the edge of the 10 feet. So if they were to get 6 feet wide, centered on that, they shouldn't get too close to the path, and they may encroach it slightly. But we do have this, the planting point
Okay.
itself is a little offset of the trail. It's a shared use path.
Thank you.
There are different sources give different spreads for that plant, anywhere between 6 and 8 feet.
I'm finding the same.
Alternative. I'm looking at you.
I'm sure it was a very thoughtful selection, just given the plant list for the county. If RWSA has plant lists or requirements, I would be okay with, thinking about it from a maintenance standpoint. I did notice that. I agree with you that that will grow in to that path, but I think we can add it to the record if there's any ability to shift those even a foot inboard. I don't know. It might be worth it. Or if you want to propose an alternative, but at this point, I don't know that I would.
This is a dry pond, right? So what are you gonna see other than grass?
So the entrance corridor design guideline is about seeing non-engineered features along the frontage. So on opting for more natural forms and not stormwater features. So it was a way to mitigate views to the stormwater pond, which will essentially, as a pedestrian, you'll see the berm go up about to 5 feet, and then it will drop down to, I think, about 7. Justin, feel free to correct me if anything sounds wrong. And then the site will go up again to, from, as this grading shows, the low point is about 66, and then it will go back up to about 74 by the time it hits these.
It's an interesting question, and because yes, basically what you're gonna see from the sidewalk, the shared use path, is about a 3.5 foot tall grass slope. And then the pond sits behind that, so it's such that, you can't see down over the hill, like there's a stormwater, that structure, that circle there is your concrete structure, that sits on the other side, so that's hidden by the embankment. But then, yeah, as a pedestrian, you would see the grass slope, and then you would see basically the other side of the pond being the parking lot slope, which goes up to the 70. So that's what, 72. It's only 4 or so feet above the shared use path. We're happy to provide the screening. It is part of the reference to a pond being an engineered feature. This particular pond is a very small one that I don't know that you would notice in particular. That is our perspective, but there's precedent for screening those sort of features. We found a solution to it. We're happy to do it. The trade-off is there's probably gonna be some maintenance required in someone's part to trim those out of that shared use path because of the limited space in which to plant. So if you all say they're a bad idea, we're happy to remove them. If you're say slide them over as much as possible, we're happy to do that. We're not really opposed to them, but I think there's a trade-off here of you're screening a relatively small feature. If it was a 15-foot tall dam, or if you could see the concrete structure or something like that, I would certainly understand the landscaping a little more, but we're happy to provide it unless the board says it's a bad idea.
I think it's a bad idea.
Oh, okay.
I think it looks very contrived. If they could be planted in more normal sort of natural arrangement, I think I'd feel better about it. It is gonna require maintenance. I mean, the viburnums I have are at least 6 feet wide. We're not doing, it sort of has an abrupt end to it down at the, because you have to leave the easement open to get to the adjoining property, I guess it's fire access. Yeah, I mean, I feel like if there were meadow grasses or a pollinator you could do a variety of things there that would feel a lot more natural.
Any other comments from board members? Questions?
I think they're good observations about how the landscape may evolve. Are there similar restrictions from RWSA about ornamental grasses, or are there any plants that are allowed to be planted closer than 10 feet that could be done in a more naturalistic?
I don't know.
Grasses probably.
Perhaps if there's any leeway, maybe a more naturalistic, kind of layout of the plants, so they're not in a straight line along the path.
The problem is they're right up against the easement, so they
Yeah.
can't. Are there any plants that are exempt from sort of RWSA restriction?
They allow certain like the grass clusters of various types to be planted, but not in the 10-foot zone either, basically. So they could be replaced in that strip, but they don't really provide any screening, right? So that was the trade-off, was trying to provide some screening with something on their list, and that choice was very limited.
Well, I'll defer to the rest of the board. I think it feels very contrived.
I mean, part of it is do you want it to look like you can't see the stormwater, the berm and the stormwater feature, or do you want it to be visible but look a little bit nicer and not impact the shared use path? Is that?
I mean, I just think you're gonna see it from here, you're gonna see it from here, right? You're getting, I don't know how many feet of relief you're getting, and all you're looking at the berm anyway. It's not like you're looking at the pond.
We could revise the recommended condition to say an alternate plant and a more naturalistic arrangement with less required maintenance is preferred, and we could continue to work with the applicant to figure out what
Okay.
that might be.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Thank you, Margaret. Do we want to review the recommended motions?
Could I just make a quick note? I know this is very nitpicky, and so I apologize. But I appreciate that the facade of lot 15 has windows and stuff going on it. They're a little out of alignment.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one.
But I'm sure it'll be corrected at some point.
I don't know that it will be. I
Just
don't-
add it.
Is that
I
not the
missed
case?
that.
They won't be,
That-
they're gonna be like that?
So that was a comment it was not a requirement, but a recommendation in the first action letter that the applicant consider aligning those windows. They did consider it, and I think there is a stairwell, the internal floor plans just keep the windows where they are.
Yes, basically the end unit of a townhome has certain restrictions. They put the stair on the outside for some reason. And that was basically the origin of the landscaping and the little layers of screening, where because the development, Nicole and the builder team said, well, this is probably the better way to handle the situation. And to try to redesign how we build a townhome was to enhance the landscaping. And I think we had an interest also in sort of enhancing the landscaping from the building to the street. It goes both ways. It's kind of a busy street. So we felt like that was a better solution both ways rather than trying to rework the building. So that's the origin of the enhanced landscaping basically, was those issues, similar issues that aren't easily resolved, unfortunately.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Any other edits or items? No? Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve the revised condition recommended by staff as follows. Item 1, revised to state an alternate plant for the Arrowwood viburnum in a more naturalistic arrangement with less required maintenance is preferred.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We call the vote?
Mr. Vanderwerf,
Aye.
Mr. Mitsuno,
Aye.
Mr. Stoner,
Aye.
Mr. Hancock.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to other business, approval of the April 7th, 2025 minutes. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
And could we call the vote?
Yes. Mr. Hancock,
Aye.
Mr. Stoner,
Aye.
Mr. Mitsuno,
Aye.
Mr. Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. We don't have any old business. Any other items? Anything from board members or staff? No?
Brian, now that you're back.
Oh, this was a guest appearance.
You knew you couldn't get away today, didn't you?
No, if you're gonna ask, I assume you're gonna ask about the entrance corridor?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm excited to get back to that once form-based code those updates take a break.
Any idea
But-
when that is?
We're hoping for it to be, we're into the revision stages with our small groups, and we're aiming for planning commission dates and board dates, in the winter, fall.
Was for Rio?
This
Or-
is for the Rio 29
Yeah.
area.
But it seems like quarter guidelines are almost done, right? Is that
Well, so we have over 100 pages, and we kind of changed our language and our thinking as we moved on. So it's kind of, we need to backtrack a little bit and establish some uniformity throughout. So while we have all of the information is there, there's just that what is it called? The uniformity, and then that deeper thinking about what to do with corner properties and what takes precedent or not. We haven't really had those conversations yet. You all still have work to do.
Are you still waiting for information from me?
Oh gosh, I hope not.
Good. The next meeting is scheduled for Monday, May 19th. Do any board members,
I'll be away.
Dade will be away? Anybody else?
No, I'll be here.
Okay. Do we have some applicants?
We have at least 2 regular review items on that agenda.
Okay, good. All right, let's see. This meeting is adjourned until Monday, May 19th, 2025. The time is 2:01.